Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another round of this, the NGK SPARK PLUG's ESPORTS CUP here on Race Room. My name is Connery Medic. I'll be your English commentator for this evening. It is my pleasure to bring you this series once again as we head to the famous Italian track of Imola. Let's have a look at the schedule. Well, how the schedule has been so far in this event, and of course how it will turn out as well. We are in race number 3, and remember, for all intents and purposes, these are qualifying races for that final race at the very end of the season. We'll get into that in just a handful of moments' time, but we're here at Imola. And, well, the leaderboard for the next round of the championship in 2 weeks' time is already open. So you can get yourself involved in the racing here. If you compete in that leaderboard, score a good time, and potentially you might be here today. Well, maybe not today, but maybe this time, 2 weeks' time, to compete in our 4th race of the season. But the 3rd race is today, of course. And, well, what better track to go to than, of course, Imola. Historic in so many ways, but unfortunately, for sometimes the very wrong reasons. But before we get into that, of course, there's have a look at the timetable for today. Stream's already started, of course. We've got qualifying coming up in just a handful of minutes' time. Then we head into our first race of the day of 20 minutes. And, of course, we'll get ourselves involved in the second race, another 20-minute race, but with a reverse grid, of course. And we'll be ending at 25 past 8 in terms of Central European time, a little bit later on. But without further ado, though, let's just have a look at the championship standings as they are right now, because, of course, this series is a little bit complicated with regards to the whole championship situation. Of course, all these drivers are trying to compete and get themselves inside of that final round of the season. You can do that in one of 2 ways. You can finish inside the top 4 in the point standings at the end of any given race day. That is the easiest, well, it's the easiest way in terms of future progression to get through than the other way, which is to score inside the top 16 in terms of overall points without scoring inside the top 4 in any given race weekend. It's a little bit complicated, I know, but it's just the way that we have to do things here. Currently, in those championship standings, those that have not qualified, of course, Ben Sarkis, Vior Rosen, Pez Daniel, Bo Dixon, Lucas Vollering are the top 5. Of course, you see all those names down to P16. Which will be our cut-off point for inviting more drivers to that final round of the season. Of course, we've got Daniel Burker in that 16th place at the moment. He'll be one of those drivers that looks to try and get themselves inside of the top 4 at the end of today's race weekend, so that he doesn't have to compete in the 4th round of the season. He can just go straight to the final race. But with that, and before we get ourselves into qualifying, let's have a look at how to go around this amazing track of Imola. Well, let's have a look then from the perspective of one of our drivers as we ride on board for a lap of this Imola circuit. Of course, this big old run down in towards turn number 1 is going to be your main overtaking opportunity here today. Lots of drivers will try and be brave on the brakes in towards the Tamburello chicane. But it's a very single line through here. So if you do go side by side through there, then you're going to be losing a whole bunch of time to those drivers behind you. And you can have multiple third parties get themselves involved in this one. But as we head in towards the Villeneuve chicane now, careful with running out too wide there. You don't want to dip 2 tires into the dirt, particularly through that section. Now slam on the anchors in towards Tosa, that left-hand hairpin, as you start to climb the hill towards the very top of the circuit. Next corner is going to be Piratello, which is the very fast left-hander. Car gets quite unstable sometimes coming through there. You're on the limit of grip. Careful with the runoff as well. You don't want to get any off tracks through there. Then you dive back down the hill, elevation change in towards the fantastic section of Aqua Minerales. You're always bringing that car towards the right before darting back up the hill once again. Next, the big braking zone will be in towards a Variante Alta. Careful of the curbs on the inside here. You don't want to launch the car over them too much. Otherwise, you get yourself very unsettled and you'll start to lose bit of time, maybe even get spat out towards the runoff on the exit of the corner. A little bit of a mini straight now as you start to descend once again into the final two corners of the racing circuit. These are the two Ravazzas at the very end of the lap. Angle yourself through the first one, absolutely fine. Careful with the second one though, you don't want to get any wheel spin out of this. It'll compromise your run all the way down that front straight and makes you very, very vulnerable to attack down in towards turn number 1. And that, everyone, is a lap of this Imola circuit for round number 3 of the championship. Let's have a look back into the racing picture then, because we do have a qualifying underway, everyone, as the drivers getting themselves out there on circuit for the first time in this session. And of course, we've already discussed in previous rounds how important qualifying tends to be in these sorts of events. You don't have a lot of time to work with regards to the actual race time. They're only 20-minute events here, so there's not a lot of time for you at the start of the race to try and recover from a bad qualifying performance and get yourself stuck in back up there towards the very top of the order. But currently, of course, we do have a little bit of an entry list for this round here at Imola. Let's have a look at it now. Enzo Filipao, Niki Geisler, Royce Rocco, Yuval Rosa and Alex Moysen are the top 5 entries into this at the moment. Of course, you recognize very many of the names from rounds previous that weren't quite able to squeeze their way in towards the top 4 finishers in points at the end of those weekends, so that's why they're still here, still trying at it. I do apologize, we did seem to have a couple of technical issues there, but it seems like we are back in action and back rolling, which is fantastic stuff to see. We're still waiting for these drivers to, of course, complete their first laps here in qualifying before we get ourselves our grid set for race number 1. I'm very thankful that you're all able to join us here in this one. Sinyangine in the chat saying, "Go Connery," thank you very much, mate. It's much appreciated, your support. As we see those first lap times coming qualifying then, Stef Kremers going fastest of everyone so far in this session. He's from the Netherlands with Cernel. We saw him in the previous couple of rounds as well. He's lined up 2nd place for the moment, and well, Vili Krevi, we saw him, and Sebastian Ree and Royce Rocco, so a lot of very familiar names getting themselves involved in this one. Here is Stef Kremers. Well, that was inopportune timing for the spin, I suppose, being shown on camera, so a little bit of an embarrassment there as we delve in towards the final 5.5 minutes of qualifying. Lap time still being set, of course. 28 drivers being in this session right now. Only 16 have been able to set themselves initial times. Of course, you don't want to be leaving it too late until you get yourself the initial time set here. You don't want that pressure on the second half of the session when you don't have a lap time set. Otherwise, you'll be starting right at the very back of the grid if you're not able to get one in, and that is not the situation the drivers would by any means want to have happen to them. Let's have a look to see potential drivers on laps right now. Of course, we see Mikhail Lapanik from the Absolute Motorsports racing team. Of course, everyone in AMG Mercedes GT3s here, so that's so there's going to be no difference in terms of the balance performance between each cars in this situation, not like some other series that we do tend to broadcast. Everything's a little bit more equal here in this one, which tends to produce some fantastic and some very close racing. At least that's the trends that we've seen for the first handful of rounds of this season. Mikhail is heading his way down towards the very anti-ultra at the moment. Again, another personal best sector time, so it's looking pretty positive for the driver that currently resides in 6th place, although I say that, he does get shuffled down into 7th. But with a lap time looking like this, and well, a little bit of traffic to deal with coming down in towards the final couple of corners, potentially Lapanik might be able to get himself a decent lap time set here. We do have Alex Moysen going towards the top of the order though, 0.3 of a second ahead of the Dutch driver of Stef Kremers in behind. What's Lapanik able to do as he heads his way across the line here at Imola? Well, it's a lap time that's only good enough for 8th place, so despite being an improvement in terms of personal best, not able to get him all that far up the starting grid for today. There's a little bit of a cluster going on here. Of course, traffic sometimes a very big issue in qualifying sessions. You want to find yourself a piece of real estate where, yes, you can get yourself a draft off the car ahead, but you can't afford to be held up by any cars ahead. That's the sweet spot that you want to be in this situation. Villicrevi, he's not on a qualifying lap at the moment. You can see that by the fact that he doesn't have any sector time set down the bottom. So that's an easy trick to be able to tell if someone's on a lap or not. Per Daniel is on a lap. It's not a very competitive one though, with going 9/10 of a second slower than his personal best through sector 2. So that's not looking too good for the driver from the Czech Republic. We're seeing Nico Cernal. He's down the order. That's not a valid lap either, as he must have gotten his lap time invalidated through sector 1. That's why you see it frozen at any seconds. But across the line to begin another lap here for Cernal. He does get shuffled down in towards P9. Enzo Filipao going up into P2 for the moment, but there's still some time left here in qualifying for you to get yourself, for the drivers, excuse me, to get themselves their lap time set, to get their place on the starting grid. We do have a couple of drivers that have not set themselves times just yet. That's Pedro Gomez, Daniel Parvan, and Ben Svarkas. Those three drivers have not set any lap time just yet. They'll have to be pretty quick about it, because we are drawing the session to a close in about 2 minutes time, so you just about have enough time to get yourself an out lap and a flying lap in, but you don't want to be bringing it any closer than that, as Steph Kramers heads his way across the line for sector 3 there from Steph Kramers. He was up through sector 1 and sector 2 but, on his provisional time, or rather his personal best time, but look at the gap between P2 and P3 at the moment. It's about 1,000th of a second that separates Enzo Filipao and Steph Kramers at this stage of qualifying. It's as close as you like for P2. Filipao, by the way, he's just chilling there down in towards pit lane. He doesn't feel like he can improve on his fastest lap time, and he's deciding to take a little bit of a break. Steph Kramers, though, personal best through sector 1, so he only needs to gain 1,000th of a second over the course of this lap compared to his personal best, and he'll be able to get himself on the front row of the starting grid for race number 1. So it sounds like a tiny gain, but sometimes that last 1,000th, last couple of thousandths are the hardest to gain, especially when you're going flat out here as he heads his way through the exit of Aqua Minerale in towards the third and final sector. Now Alex Mosen is out there still and circulating. He didn't have a particularly great sector 1, so I'm not expecting this lap time to be an improvement from the German at the very front of the field. Another personal best second sector for Steph Kramer. So this is looking like a very tidy lap at the moment. So, although remember, back to the previous lap, it was that sector 3 that ruined things for him. So can't afford to make an error through these couple of corners. Should be able to come across the line to take P2. Of course, we will show the automated system does show the results a little early. There's still a little bit of time left for the session to run, so the Kramers will be able to get himself to the line. Whether or not he gets P2 or not, he does. So Steph Kramers up into P2. Alex Mosen is your pole position sitter, with Enzo Filipao in 3rd place, with Yuval Rosen 4th. We've got Michi Geisler, in P5, with Villicrevi P6, Julian Alcarte in P7, Lucas Vollering in P8, with Royce Rocco P9. Sebastian Ree will start in 10th place. In terms of those drivers outside the top 10, you've got Ben Svarkas, Mikael Lapanek, we've got Peter Daniel, and Nico Schindel in P14. P15 goes to Frederick Gerhammer, and you got Daniel Berker in P16. Jesus Huerta in P17, with Pedro Gomez P18, Marius Sabdia in P19, and Rukas Daibi in P20. The rest of the runners you can see, of course, all the way down to P26 on our starting grid. We're briefly shown on your screen. So as we transfer over into the actual race session itself, it's going to be, just as a reminder, 2 20-minute races here today in the NGK SPARK PLUG's Esports Cup. Drivers will be aiming to finish top 4 in points at the end of today, so they don't have to race in race number 4 of the quote-unquote qualifying championship that we have here, to get yourself inside the final race where all the prizes are on offer. A maximum of 20 seconds before we get the green flag here at Imola. Fantastic circuit, of course. It's going to be a big old charge down in towards turn number 1, as well as your main overtaking opportunity here today. Lots of drivers looking to try and get themselves a good run off to try and carry all that speed down in towards turn number 1. But race number 3 of the NGK SPARK PLUG's Esports Cup is about to get itself underway here at Imola. I'm stoked for this one. I hope you are too at home, as we go green here in Italy. Steph Kramer's getting off the line well. Mosen bogged down a little bit from pole position. He'll lose a lot of ground here on the way down in towards turn number 1. Kramer's trying to get himself up into the race lead. He has to go late on the brakes in towards turn number 1, but Mosen's able to respond down the inside. Mosen's overcommitted to it though, as Kramer's tries to find his way around driver's left-hand side, but he can't find any way through there at the moment, as Mosen, well, good recovery from that race start. It was an awful getaway from the grid spot, but Mosen able to hold on to the race lead through the first sector. No dramas, I believe, a little bit further back either, so everyone's been able to get their way through relatively unscathed, although I see, Jesus Herta in the wall. And, well, filed all the way towards the very back of the order. P28 for him. I didn't exactly see what happened to Huerta there, as looking back, got Yuval Rosen just committing down the inside of Leonard Carton there. That was a ballsy move up in towards Piratella as well. It's not usually a place where you get yourself an overtaking move attempted, but, well, Yuval Rosen has gone for it. Now Leonard Carton is trying to fight it out with Geisler here. And Geisler trying to send one down the inside at the Variante Alta, and he's able to get that move done as well. So passes being made in perhaps some uncharacteristic spots here for Imola. It's fantastic to see. It's great to see everyone so close together as well, as we head ourselves in towards the final couple of corners of lap number 1. Carton, of course, still trying to lock onto the back of Geisler here. Of course, he lost a couple of spots on that initial lap, but we've still got 18 minutes to go, so still some time left for you to try and recover from a potentially poor start here, as we get the big old slipstream train on the way down in towards turn number 1. Carton will continue to close up here. Front 3 have kind of spread themselves out a little bit. No one close enough to make a move on the brakes in towards turn number 1 this time around, but there's going to be ample opportunity for in the latter portions of this race to get moves done down into there, so I wouldn't worry about that whatsoever. Villa Crevi following closely to the back of Enzo Filipao at the moment. Filipao losing a couple of spots on the initial start as well. Getting 2 tyres into the dirt is not exactly ideal either, as there's battle going on here, battle going on ahead as well, as Yuval Rosen trying to defend from Carton and Geisler. Those latter two going door to door at the moment on the way up the hill towards Piratella, but Carton able to slot himself in, so he gets the response over Michi Geisler there in P5. Carton back up into P4, feeling the need to go defensive, or at least take a slightly defensive line in towards Acqua Minerale. Someone spun at the back. That's Lucas Vollering. Lucas Vollering has had a spin on the exit of Acqua Minerale. And, well, he can't do anything but try to rejoin in a safe manner and watch that stream of cars come by on his left-hand side. Vollering down into P21. Looking further forward, you got Geisler now feeling a little bit paranoid, because Filipao is trying to come at him down in towards the last couple of corners. The 2 Ravazzas at the very end of the lap here at Imola. The right on board the back of Geisler as, well, Filipao and everyone else behind is going to get a big old slipstream run down the pit straight here. And you have to complete the move down in towards turn number 1. What does Filipao decide to do? Filipao decides to go to the outside for Tamburello, but no commitment really in terms of maintaining the overlap through there. Geisler just running himself over a little bit through the corner, losing a little bit of time as a result. So there's a little bit of jostling for position going on further back as well. Sebastian Reed trying to get past Ville Crevi, so it's the German versus the Finnish driver through Villeneuve. And that causes a chain reaction behind. Peter Daniel also looking to try and capitalize on the situation through Tosa. Getting a little bit tail happy there was the Czech driver, but able to gather it up quite well and following it and follow in behind Sebastian Reed. Of course, it is, I do empathize with viewers finding it very difficult to tell who is who in terms of the cars here, but I am doing my best. You can tell which car the camera is focused on by the indentation on the left-hand side, and of course I'm trying to use the lower thirds as much as I can, just to give you a little bit of better idea of who is who out there. Of course, they do have slightly different color trim, shall we say, as Vents Farkas, well, a creative line through the exit of Variante Alta. That will be an off-track for sure. And can't afford to be doing that too often unless you draw the attention of the stewards, of course. But the race is settling down rather well at this stage. Benzvaca is secure in P7 for the moment. It will give us a little bit of a chance to have a look at what's going on elsewhere. Battle for P3 potentially, well, getting close in towards turn number 1. No threatening moves being made yet, though, by Carton. As Carton's on a decent recovery at the moment, as we see yet more fighting in towards turn 1. This is the battle for P14 behind Daniel Parvan, of course, the Romanian, trying to hold everyone behind him as Gearhammer gets the run of speed off the corner. That was a bit of an interesting one there for Parvan, losing that position. And the Swedish driver of Gearhammer able to squeeze himself ahead. And now we've got the Argentinian of Chemiando. And, well, that's another pass being made there as... well, there's a car that seems to be without its hood there. I think that's Lucas Vollering, so he must have had a little bit of contact after his spin, which has resulted in the damage that you see just, well, not quite in this picture, but there we go, right in the background. No bonnet, no hood, if you're American, on that car. And he's suffering a little bit due to that damage, of course. Damage is fully on and realistic, so this is not just visual damage here, it does affect the performance of the cars. We'll go back to that Alpha P3 that we've been patiently waiting for, shall we say. Yuval Rosen versus Leonard Carton. Of course, Rosen had an okay time last time out at Paul Ricard, got some decent points, and has really helped him in the points qualification method across the entirety of a season. But of course, the ideal situation for everyone involved here is to finish inside the top 4 in points just from these 2 races. That will give you an automatic qualification spot for that final event. So that's the way they want it done, and well, the way Carton will want to make this pass look to be around the outside at Tamburello, but not this time, as he'll have to follow us just as closely as he dares through Villeneuve instead. Looks like Rosen's struggling a little bit at this stage in the race, and Carton starting to come alive now on the brakes in towards Tosa. Seems to have a lot more confidence mid-corner. Car not stepping out on him whatsoever. Well, meanwhile, Rosen feeling like that car's a little bit of a handful for him at the moment, but in towards Piratella now. Rosen carrying a lot of speed, and that's why you saw him just run off the track a little bit. Certainly feeling threatened by Carton. Carton taking a better line through the Acqua Minerale as well. So it's been a pretty scruffy lap from Yuval Rosen. Carton looking to try and capitalize on that as much as possible. Of course, the longer he gets stuck in this battle, the more chance that Geisler, Filipao, Farkas, all in behind, will have the opportunity to try and catch up and get themselves involved in this battle. This is the place where you want to maximize your exit, though. As, oh, Carton sliding out a little bit through the exit in the corner. That's not going to help the run down the pit straight, and this is where you want the... you certainly want the traction out of the final corner, because it gives you this run down in towards 10 number 1. But you can see, as a result of Carton just being all over the place on the back end, coming out of that final corner, he doesn't have any opportunity to make any pass down in towards turn number 1. So again, you just can't afford to do that if you're looking to try and get past the competitor ahead. So we're seeing battling going on behind as well, as Geisler trying to hold back the French driver of Filippo. Doing well with regards to that, or other guys that are doing very well with regards to that for the moment. But Filippo, we saw him and his pace in qualifying. It wasn't too shabby at all. So despite an awful start, maybe Filippo can get himself back into race pace and show really how fast that Mercedes-AMG GT3 can actually go. We are coming up towards the halfway point of the race, though. It's coming to 10 minutes. This is another potential opportunity for Carton to try and find his way through on the Israeli driver. In towards those final couple of corners again, following closely through mid-corner, but it's really the exit that you want to get right here. Following through the middle of the corner is not really all that useful, unless you can carry the speed through onto the exit and get this run down the pit straight. And, well, Carton's done a better job this time around. It's a very long slipstream zone into the braking zone for Tamburello. Rosen, what does he do in this situation? Well, takes his normal line. Carton showed a nose towards the inside to try and threaten, but it was all show and no bite. And Carton will have to try and fight this one somewhere else. Sometime else as well. Still half the race to go. Like how close these guys follow through Tosa, even though it's not a primary overtaking opportunity. Of course, there's certainly room to make something happen into there, but of course the drivers will always be planning in their heads, okay, Tamburello's turn number 1 is the place where I want to get past, but not often do we see a pass coming through Acqua Minerale though, because Carton's got a sudden run of speed by getting himself a very good line through Piratella, forcing Rosen to go defensive in that instance. It's lost them a little bit of time to those drivers behind as well, so Geisler and Philippau will certainly be hoping that they fight a little bit more, and Carton's overcut the corner there. Same with Rosen ahead, just in different ways. Carton got a whole bunch of oversteer coming off the curb, and Rosen, well, he got a bunch of understeer and pushed wide into the runoff. So mistakes from both drivers here, and you can see how much time now that Geisler has gained as a result of those mistakes from those drivers ahead of him. Certainly can be said to be involved in this battle now. Nowhere near as close coming down the pit straight this time around, so move into turn 1 unlikely in this situation. So yeah, sticking all behind single file. It will give us a little bit of a chance to have a look at what's going on in behind, because we do have Ville Crevi and Timon Grassman potentially going wheel to wheel, but of course you do have well, Grassman, Ville Crevi here again without his without any front end on his car. I'm surprised he's still able to go this quick down the pit straight, as Grassman having maybe a few technical issues there with the wiggling about, but when it was turn number 1, that was Crevi with a potential forceful move that didn't quite pull off. Huerta, of course, got himself involved in that instant in the early portions of the race, spinning towards the back of the field. He went all the way down to P28, but now, with that pass on Ville Crevi, has gotten himself up into 20th. So the recovery still going on for the driver from Peru, if you're wondering where that flag was from. Up to 6.5 minutes left to go. Of course, these races do go by rather quickly, so that shouldn't be entirely surprising. Of course, we will have a reverse grid in effect for race number 2 as well, so you certainly do want to watch out for that one. It can change the complexion of these sorts of races. It's certainly a spanner that gets thrown in, and the drivers just have to deal with it. Look at the run that Farkas has got over Philippau now. So Philippau not deciding to go defensive down in towards turn number 1. Farkas just sends it down the inside. Important to get the car stopped though when you go for the absolute sends there, and make sure you get a clean line through. Otherwise, on the exit of Tamburello, potentially the driver behind might be able to respond into Villeneuve, but that's not the case in this instance. So Farkas has been able to score that position up into 6th place for the Hungarian driver. And of course, if you're a fan of Actual Vision, Luke Crane, he always says there's always a Hungarian, and it seems like Farkas is our quick Hungarian for today. In terms of race room competition, he's up into 6th place. We do have another Hungarian though, Christoph Nagy, down in P26 though, so he's had not the most ideal of performances here. 5 minutes of the event then. Let's just check in terms of that battle for P3, because it looks like Yuval Rosen has made a mistake, and now Carton can try and capitalize on this one once again. Another mistake from the Israeli driver allows the German an opportunity coming into these final couple of corners of the lap. And while Carton slings it down the inside, Rosen getting all sorts of out of shape, and Geisler takes that move all day long, opportunistic. And well, Geisler picks up the pieces there. Yuval Rosen losing 2 positions in the space of 2 corners. And well, that car's been seemingly a handful for him all day. So maybe that would have only been a matter of time before those passes happened. But it's never great to see when it does happen, at least if you're the driver losing those spots. Of course, for Geisler, it's a freebie. Close battling going on just inside, outside, top 10. Zabdir, Berker, Gerhammer, all very close nose to the tail, of course, through that initial chicane. At Tamburello into Villeneuve now. They spread out a little bit more. I'm having a look back as we've got side by side between Lapnik and Nick Schmenk. Schmenk not able to squeeze his way by in that instance, but of course, you know, we're seeing so many drivers look for that opportunity towards turn number 1, which is, like I said many times on the course of this broadcast, it is your main opportunity, your main chance to try and get past the driver ahead of you. And now what's the situation here at the very top? Because, well, we've got Alex Mosen, who's run away with things, completely and utterly run away with things at the front. He's got a 2.6 seconds gap back to Steph Kramer's. So it's looking unlikely that we'll see any different race winner than Alex Mosen for race number 1 here today. We have 3 minutes to go as well, just a handful of laps before we get ourselves done for race number 1. Zabdir, Berker and Gerhammer are all trying to scrap it out for P10. Polish driver leads the Austrian and Swede for the moment. Oh, big instant though, big instant. Just as I look away at my timing screen, very, very briefly, Daniel Berker has had a spin on the exit of the final turn and a heavy impact with the wall on driver's left-hand side. Things are going okay for Daniel Berker up until then, and now he's got Mikhail Lapnik looking to try and go through on the outside, through in towards turn number 1. That's a major amount of damage to that car now, and it's going to be really hurting, especially in a straight line as a result of that. But now you've got Marcel Holoch looking to try and get past the Cripples number 17 car. That's all you can really say about that one. Unfortunate, shall we say. But of course there is another race, although it is a reverse grid event. Top 10 get themselves swapped all around. So we get new names towards the very top of the order here. 1 minute, 30 seconds left remaining. So once Alex Moisen, where is he? So he's heading his way down in towards those final couple of corners now. So once he comes across the line, that will be the start of the final lap for race number 1. It's been a very, very clean, very comfortable race for Alex Moisen, and has, well, had completely no trouble from anyone behind him. So across the line he goes, starts the final lap. Close run situation for P10 between Marius Zabdir and Frederick Gerhammer. Frederick, what's he able to do in this situation? Because we'll ride on the back of Marius, seeing how much of a run Gerhammer can get on him in this situation. I'm seeing really clearly all his way down the order, but we'll just ignore that for now and focus on this battle for P10. Zabdir slightly defensive in towards Tamburello, and well, remains ahead for now. Final lap, of course. There is Alex Mosen. That's your race leader, who's had no trouble for the entire 20 minutes of this event. Of course, was a little bit sluggish coming off the starting grid. Of course, we saw Steph Kramer's getting himself a much better launch, but Mosen was able to recover and gather things up. He was able to position his car in the right way so that Kramer's was not able to find his way through the first sector of the first lap. 5 seconds left to go, of course. Not expecting any major changes in terms of the top couple of positions here today, so we will very quickly be drawing our first race to a close. And what a performance it was for Alex Mosin as he heads his way through those final couple of corners. The last acceleration zone. And Alex Mosin will score maximum points here in race number 1 of the NGK SPARK PLUG Esports Cup here at Imola. Of course, event number 3, the first race of it, goes Alex Mosin's way. Across the line he goes. Looking further back though, we got a big battle for P10. Zabda and Gerhammer, they're going to fight at it door to door through the final couple of corners. Zabda gets tagged a little bit, almost into a spin, but he's able to gather it up. Who's going to finish P10 though? Gerhammer does have a good run, and the start-finish line is quite far down the pit straight here. Zabda will just about be able to hold on. It was almost 3 wide for P10. Coming across the line there, Zabda able to secure that P10, Gerhammer in P11, and Rukas to be in P12. So a little bit of excitement there further back through the order. The rest of the runners heading their way across the line now after a scintillating finish, at least for those for that last position inside the top 10. Great performance from Alex Mosin takes this race win here. Of course, he'll take the bad end of the reverse grid, of course, so he'll have a little bit more to do in race number 2 to get anywhere back up there. But of course, we saw Luciano Vitvo at Paul Ricard win race number 1, get punished to the reverse grid. I think he got himself back up into 2nd place, I believe, in the second event. So it's absolutely crazy what some drivers can do despite being punished, quote unquote, by the reverse grid. But let's have a look then at the unofficial race results at the end of race 1. Alex Mosin's, Steph Kramer's, Leonard Carton, Ishi Geisler, Yuval Rusin round out the top 5 with Mens Farkas P6, Enzo Filipao P7 with Sebastian Reed P8, Peter Daniel P9, and Marius Zabda in P10. Friedrich Gerhammer P11 with Rukas de B P12, Mikhail Lapanek P13 with Daniel Birker P14, Marcel Hollock in P15, and Nick Schmenk will line up, he finished P16. He also line up in 16th for the second event here today. And, well, it will happen in just a minute or so after we get the race results done here, because we don't like to hang around here at the NGK SPARK PLUG Esports Cup. So we've got the gridding procedure underway already for race number 2, the reverse grid race here. Of course, top 10 reverse grid in this event. So see new names at the very top of the order, at least to start, and we'll see what happens in towards turn number 1 as drivers try to find a little bit of a better position for race number 2 compared to what they were able to manage in race 1. So maximum 17 seconds before we get ourselves onto the starting grids then. Get ourselves underway for race number 2 of this event here at Imola. Of course, it is Marius Zabda on pole position. That's why he was fighting tooth and nail for P10, because it was reverse grid pole position. Marius Zabda will start on the inside of the front row. And off and away we go for race number 2 of the NGK SPARK PLUG Esports Cup here at Imola. It was a great start from pole position from Marius Zabda. He'll be able to lead down in towards turn number 1. Pierre Daniel in P2. It's a big old scrap for P3 though between Sebastian Reed, Filipao, Farkas, all going side by side and through the first sector. I saw a little bit of 3 wide there, which is not exactly ideal. It's very, very risky, but they're all able to keep it together, quite surprisingly. Fantastic stuff from our drivers here today as we head our way in towards Villeneuve for the first time here in race number 2. Front of the field getting themselves single file very, very quickly. A couple of drivers kicking up the dirt on the outside of the Villeneuve chicane. No dramas further back though. Daniel Parvin is falling back through the order down into piece 26 and about 10 seconds adrift of the next position further down the line. I wonder what has happened to him as we head back towards the race lead, because that is looking to change once again. Peter Daniel looking very, very threatening down in towards Acre Minerale. We've seen well, typically, Aqua Minerale is not the place to make passes, but we've seen a couple of attempts at it already. Sebastian Ree feeling the need to go defensive on Benz Farkas here on the way in towards Variante Alta. Careful of the curb, and that's why, especially with cold tyres, the traction does break, and you can see him losing time to the front two, and Farkas will be looking to try and get through on this as fast as possible on the way down in towards the Turavattas. There's the big send down the inside for Peter Daniel for the race lead. Zapta's able to get back underneath him for the final turn, though. Fantastic fighting for the race lead here in the early stages of race number 2. Race lead battle certainly isn't done just yet as they'll come across the line. Start the second lap here. Peter Daniel trying to hold back on Zabda. Zabda will try to send it back down the inside for the race lead. Zabda back up into P1. Daniel riding the back bumper all the way through Tamburello. Not giving his opposition the room to breathe whatsoever. Not going to be close enough to make the opportunity of it in towards the field of chicane, but this is what the reverse grid race does for us sometimes. It puts drivers out of position, puts drivers at the front, and they have to scrap amongst themselves with faster traffic trying to come through. It results in some crazy battling sometimes. Daniel getting the run up in towards Piratella, of course. He's been typically better on the exit here as well, but a little bit of a bobble up over the curb is not going to help the run, and well, Farkas will certainly look to try and capitalize on that. Can't do so through Aqua Minerale. But you can see the stark difference compared to race number 1, where we had the front runners just sort of run away and space themselves out quite quickly. Oh, Zabta got a poor run through Variante Alta, and Peter Daniel basically ran into the back of him. Farkas now in P3, looking to drive his right-hand side. Again, nothing can be done there. Oh, it's going to be a big send again from Peter Daniel. He did that move just a lap ago, and Zabta has been, has been punished for it once again. Side by side, coming across the pit straight here. This is crazy battling for P1 here. Zabta back up into the race lead. Peter Daniel now having to refocus his attention somewhat because Benz Farkas is looking particularly aggressive at this stage, and he's going to look down the inside at Tamburello as well. Doesn't quite have the overlap. Filipao looking aggressive in this one as well. He's the car 4th in line. I get the feeling I won't have a voice at the end of this one with how much these guys are going at it. It's fantastic to watch. And of course, all of that battling at the very pointy end of the field for P1, P2 is just stacking up everyone behind him. You can see almost the entire field is in this train for the race lead at the moment, and Daniel getting a poor angle in towards Tosa will mean that Farkas gains another little opportunity to try and do something about the driver ahead of him, but again, can't capitalize on things just yet, it seems. It gives Marius Zabda, the Polish driver at the front, a little bit of breathing room, with a couple of tenths of a second, so he doesn't have to immediately worry about what's going on behind him. But I get the feeling that the rest of this pack will catch him up in short order. A little bit of a slide coming off the corner for Filipao there. You see the white-trimmed NGK Esports car. Again, through Variante Alta, and you can see that gap has come down already to the race lead. So Zabda not quite on the pace of the rest of these drivers. He's done very, very well, though, to respond to everything that's been thrown at him and maintain that race lead. Oh no, is that Benz Farkas? Oh no, it's a big cluster, big instant. Everyone has to stack up at the very front of the field due to the car spun in the middle of the circuit. Oh no, Zabda down into P8 now as a result of all of that, and it's just bunched everyone up for this race leading train. It's Filipao now all of a sudden from P4, potentially going to get himself up into the race lead on the way in towards turn number 1, and he does have it. That's incredible opportunistic driving for Filipao as Farkas leading the rest of them behind as, oh, someone else has gone off here and trying to have a bit of a cycle back. Is that Sebastian Ree? Yes, it is. Sebastian Ree spinning through Sector 1, a chaotic race here at the very front of the field. You can see again how much everyone continues to be stacked up. And we've got 14 minutes. No! Oh no, Filipao from the race lead. Filipao, no, you can't bottle it like that, my friend. He has to sit by the side of the circuit, takes the tow back to the pit lane. What is going on? The race lead feels like a hot potato at the moment. No one wants to hold it for any extended period of time. Peter Daniel, though, back up to the P1, and he's been gifted that one. Absolutely gifted. It was an unforced error from Philip Howe through the exit of Tosa. Maybe the pressure got to him and spun right in front of traffic, just like Zabda did earlier on through the final two Ravatsas. This is crazy, crazy stuff, everyone. Someone says awful racing. Some says chaotic racing. I guess it's just a matter of perspective, I suppose, here in this one. We've still got 13 minutes to go of this 20-minute event, of course. Having a look at your race winner from last time out, that's Alex Moysen, has improved and got himself up into 7th place over the course of this race. Now he's got Zabda ahead of him, looking to drive his left-hand side. That will be pinched off, so he has to look the other way. Coming in towards turn number 1 now, looking to try and commit on the brakes into there, but Mosen's not able to do anything about that, and Kramer's behind. Well, Kramer's wasn't able to challenge Mosen at all in that initial race, but can challenge him now. Speaking of, though, challenging, in towards P1, Bent Farkas looking to try and gain some glory on the way in towards Tosa. Not quite able to squeeze his way through. Looking to try and get the traction off. Will drag him all the way up the hill, but not going to get it. And, well, Carton now looking to say, well, I want to get myself involved now. I'm going to look down the inside at Piratella and get nothing done. But Farkas has a better run through the corner. Will gain an advantage down the hill in towards Acqua Minerale. It's been crazy racing. I'm not saying it's been amazing as far as racecraft is concerned, but it's certainly been entertaining. Farkas, again, another good run out of Acqua Minerale, looking to the outside for Variante Alta. Oh, careful, gather it up. Backs up everyone else behind. Carton had to lift all the way out of that, and the big beneficiary out of that entire situation, guess who? It is Uval Rosen, who we saw struggle a little bit through the first race, but a very good placement of his car was able to squeeze his way through on that entire situation developing ahead of him, because we could have seen another driver have a big spin from a major position and stack everyone else up behind. We've seen it 3 times almost in this event already. Leonard Carton looking, showing the nose. No threat in that move whatsoever. Maintains that 4th place for now. Good run. Good line through Tamburello as well. Gains a little bit of a run of speed over Farkas here, but unable to do anything with it, as he now has to try and focus on potentially Geisler behind, because Geisler's been sort of a little bit quiet so far this race, and has been running his own way. But we'll see if he can get stuck in, as it's another little issue on the exit of Tosa here. It seems like these drivers are really struggling with the traction on the rear coming out of these corners, and well, drive-through penalty for Frederick Gehammer, or Gehammer, excuse me. I will get my pronunciation right at some point. The things happening everywhere, I suppose. We're just about getting ourselves to the halfway point of the race. Peter Daniel has been able to extend a 0.7 of a second advantage back to P2, so that's great to hear if you're Peter Daniel, because it means that no one's going to immediately challenge you down into any of these corners, unless of course you make a mistake. And boy, people have been making mistakes over the course of this race too, a lot. So I certainly wouldn't rule it out. I'm hoping I'm not putting the curse of the commentator on him at the moment, but of course you do have to be very, very careful indeed. Down across the pit straight then, Rosen has reeled in Daniel. That 0.7 of a second gap is now only 0.2 of a second through the first sector. So here, Daniel not able to run away from his competitors just yet. He might not even be able to for the rest of the event. We've only got 9 minutes to go, of course. Everything can change between now and the end of the race. again, Farkas. Of course, he's been involved in the thick of things. Basically, he's been involved in everything over the course of this event. Every situation that's happened here at the very front with incidents and stack-ups and things like that, he's been there. Of course, he's been trying to press forward on his own as well, trying to gain these positions. A good podium finish for Farkas at the moment. Of course, I do remind you that the ideal situation for these drivers is to finish top 4 in terms of the points just from these 2 races. And that will give them a automatic qualification spot into the final race of the season, which is where the prizes are going to be given out. So that's the situation that the drivers will ideally want to find themselves in. But of course, in life sometimes we can't have things all our way, and we have to do things a different way. And well, we can do that in this series by finishing top 16 in the points in the after the penultimate rounds to get yourself qualified into the final event. Go then down the pit straight. Of course, Ben Farkas getting a little bit of the double toe, shall we say, and well, Rosen going towards the inside. It allows Farkas to have an opportunity. The long way around, big bounce up over the curb for the Hungarian. Loses a ton of speed as a result, and Carton might be able to capitalize on this one. There we go, Carton looking for a differing line through Villeneuve, but again, it's such a tight sequence of corners that you're unlikely to try and maintain any overlap through there. Again, another little situation into turn number 1 that's given Peter Daniel another little advantage. This time 0.8 of a second, but we know from a couple of laps ago how fast that gets swallowed up sometimes. Don't rely on it. Through Aqua Minerale, see how Ben Farkas can just carry so much more speed, it seems, than Yuval Rosen through those corners. Rosen had a little bit of a sketchy situation coming through the exit as well. All of this is playing into the hands of Daniel at the moment. The more these guys fight for P2 and back, the more that he's able to run away for the race lead. He's extended the gap up another 1/10 of a second, up to 9/10 of a second now. Getting in the range where the slipstream becomes less and less of an effect the further back you are. Marius Zapter, of course, on a little bit of a recovery drive at the moment, considering he did start in the reverse grid pole position. And Gehammer disqualified, ignoring a drive-through penalty. Yeah, that's not ideal. So we won't be seeing the Swedes finish this race. It's demoted all the way towards the back of the order as a result of the disqualification. Marius Zaptor keeping these 2 cars behind him quite comfortably, though. He might be on for a decent P7 finish here, which again is an improvement based off of where he finished in race number 1. Of course, he finished P10, which allowed him to get the reverse grip pole position. Yuval Rosen, a little bit of, I mean, he's come under an immense amount of pressure for basically the entirety of this event, and Farkas will continue to turn up the heat, I think, into these final couple of laps. Of course, Rosen's ideal situation is to be able to pull off a move on Daniel at the front and go for glory, go for the race win. But the thing is for Rosen, he had a decent finish in race number 1, a P2 finish in race number 2 will basically secure him inside the top 4 in terms of the race day points for him to get himself an automatic qualification spot into the final round of the season. So for Rosen, maybe it's not worth going for the race lead, even though he is showing the nose on Daniel into the corner. Maybe it's not overall worth it too much, and he shouldn't fight too hard for it, given a P2 finish would give him a slot to compete in that final race. Something to think about for sure. You got to think about the bigger picture here. Of course, there are some racing drivers where they see the race lead ahead of them, and something just takes over, and they just want to go and win a race rather than just try and take the more sensible option. But we'll have to see what Yuval Rosen decides in this one. Right on board with Carton for a bit because he closed up a whole bunch of time there and they were hitting his way through the Acqua Minerale section, now in towards Variante Alta. Leonard Carton be the sort of dark horse of this battle. He's been waiting there patiently in P4 for the last good couple of laps. Very opportunistic driver. Certainly has the habit of capitalizing on problems from other drivers ahead of him. We've got 2 minutes 45 heading away across the line, so not a lot of time, not a lot of laps left to get this one done. Yuval Rosen heads his way down the inside on your race leader. He had a good run down the pit straight, but can he get P1? What can Daniel do to defend? He can't. Yuval Rosen can't squeeze his way through just yet. Daniel holds on into the race lead, but the thing is, we've got another move potentially trying to be defended by Yuval Rosen. He's completely overcommitted to that corner. He's going to have a whole bunch of trouble on the exit of this one. Farkas able to get himself up into P2. Carton, of course, also looking to try and capitalize. No! Yuval Rosen, he spun through Tosa. He gets cycled back down into P6. That is critical for Rosen because, of course, like I said, he was looking to try and finish top 4 in terms of points at the end of the 2 races here today. And potentially that might have dashed his hopes. Of course, there's still a chance he may be able to get up there. Of course, we will get confirmation at the end of the race, but that's made the job a lot tougher as Farkas completely disregarding track limits on the exit of Acqua Minerale. He's lucky he hasn't got himself a slowdown penalty as a result of that one. Daniel's laughing all the way to P1 though. As long as these two guys behind fight and leave him to his own devices at the very front. Oh, big outbraking, well, big miss of the braking point for Ben Farkas, and Carton has been able to slip his way down the inside. I said he was an opportunistic driver. He's just done it basically 2 times in a row, getting this position done on Rosen with that spin, and an overcommitment on the brakes from Farkas means that Leonard Carton gets himself up into 2nd place as they head their way across the line to start the final lap. Then Peter Daniel's basically safe. As long as he doesn't make a mistake here, Daniel should be coming across the line to take the race win here. But although with the amount of drivers that we've seen spin over the course of this event, I mean, touch wood, I think is probably what Peter Daniel's thinking at the moment. Make sure I can get this car to the checkered flag and take the race 2 win here. But Carton up into 2nd place now. Fantastic stuff from the German driver. Farkas down into 3rd place. A little bit squirrely on the exit of Tosa. Thankfully for him, that's the last time he'll have to deal with that corner in this race now. Time is about to expire, so that'll be the confirmation that this is indeed the final lap of things. Leonard Carton is not going to have, I don't think you'll have the pace to be able to catch your race leader in this final sector to make a challenge of it coming across the line, but never say never, of course. Stranger things have happened, and Carton actually does gain a decent amount of time out of Variante Alta, but again, a little 0.4 of a second is a little bit too far back at this stage to really be doing anything about that car ahead. Of course, you know, you can look to try and get yourself a good run out to the final corner and make a challenge to the line, but Peter Daniel is pitch perfect through there. So after a completely and utterly chaotic 2nd race here in the NGK SPARK PLUG's ESPORTS CUP at Imola, it is Peter Daniel, the driver from the Czech Republic, coming across the line to win race 2 of the day. Fantastic stuff from Peter Daniel. He was involved in the thick of things as well. A bit of a celebratory moment there. I think that was for Alex Mosen coming across the line P5 after a good day for him. Of course, he was our race number 1 winner. the stragglers towards the back of the field coming across the line now to score their races complete as we wait for the results to pop up. That was a pretty active, that was a pretty turbulent race number 2 as well. Lots of race lead changes, lots of fighting in the leading pack. I certainly enjoyed commentating it, and I certainly hope that you enjoyed watching it as well. So those are the unofficial race results then. Peter Daniel takes P1 with Kart in P2, Farkas in P3 with Geisler P4 and Mosin in P5. You can see the rest of the runners, Rosen in the P6. So Mosin and Rosen, there we go, that's not confusing at all. Kramer's P7, Chimanando in P8 with Lapanek in P9. Abdir in rounding out the top 10 in terms of that. So we will just wait for a couple of moments here, just wait for those results to run themselves all the way through, of course. And of course, we will get ourselves an interview with our drivers in just a handful of moments' time. But I'm very thankful that everyone's able to join me for this one. We had a pretty good race number 1. We had a race 2 that was very turbulent indeed, with a lot of the passing going on, especially in and amongst that the front of that pack. And of course, we will be able, in just a couple of moments, have a little bit of a conversation with Peter Daniel. I see he's in the Zoom and he is all ready. So, Peter, how did that race go? It seems like you were basically involved in everything going on at the very front there. It seemed like it was very close racing.
Yeah, it was really difficult for me because I'm also a little bit ill. So in this condition, it's something really surprising for me. And I tried the whole race to not to make a mistake, and it was really difficult to defend all the attacks from other drivers. So I'm really happy for that.
Yeah, it did seem like you had to have eyes on the back of your head, it felt like, in that situation with everyone trying to fight in around you. How do you approach those situations? Because it's certainly something that a driver that has to learn how to deal with so many cars in such close proximity. How do you try and find your way through those situations? Do you just sit there and just wait and see what happens, or do you try and actively try and make a pass happen and try and find a gap?
Yeah, I think it's really important to wait for the, let's say, for the right moment, and waiting for the mistakes from other drivers. So it's all about the patience, yeah, and about the waiting, and yeah, that's racing.
Yeah, it was fantastic racing, and of course, with your results here today, of course, we have to wait for confirmation with regards to the top 4 coming out of today, which will get themselves their automatic qualification into that final race. Do you think you've done enough? And if so, are you looking forward to that final?
Yeah, I'm also looking forward for the final race. Yeah, it would be really nice and exciting.
Yeah, I think so too. It's going to be at the Nordschleife, of course, as you know, that's going to be our final round of the season. So it's certainly a good track for a finale. But I'll leave you go and celebrate the race win for race number 2, Peter. Fantastic job here today, and wish you best of luck in the races that you have to come.
Thank you very much, and see you later.
All right, see you later as well. So that was Peter Daniel there from the race 2 winner for today. And of course, you know, it's fantastic to always talk to our drivers here. There's the confirmation just of the season calendar. Of course, we'll have a look. Our fourth race, excuse me, will be on the 31st of March. So that's the point where you want to be able to come in and get yourself viewing for our final qualification event. We will just take another moment here just to step out of things and have a little bit of a chat to Steph Kramers, who finished a little bit further down the order, at least in race number 2. And I'm hoping that Steph can get his camera on and get himself unmuted as well. That's fantastic stuff. And Steph, it's very nice to talk to you at the end of that one. How did the 2 races go for you? Because it seemed like race number 1 was relatively simple. Of course, you weren't able to catch Mosen for the race lead, but a solid P2. Just tell me about that one, and of course, then tell me how things have changed in race 2.
Yeah, so I got off to a very good qualifying, I would say. I got P2, I got a good slipstream in qualifying. That definitely helps here around Imola. Then the start, I got a very good launch initially. Then, yeah, the number one defender's position, yeah, fairly well. Then he had to pace over me. I saw them fighting for P3 behind, so I just settled in a rhythm to back the points. Yeah, because the top four goes through, so I thought maybe even race two I will finish, yeah, a bit higher up than I finished at the end. Then I would be top four. Now I finished P7 in the second race. It was tough out there in the middle, in the midfield, because very close racing, bit of bumping, but
Hmm.
P7 should back some good points as well. So maybe top four, and otherwise will definitely be top 16 in standings. So yeah, it was quite enjoyable out there.
Yeah, and well, we discussed with Daniel just before you came in there, where we had the situation in that second race where it seemed like the race was completely blown wide open because people were having spins, people were making contact with each other. How difficult was it to race there in race number two, considering that you probably saw that people had problems, especially coming off of in the traction zones, coming off the corners, the car getting tail happy. How did you deal with it?
Yeah, definitely. I got pushed onto the gravel a little bit after the first chicane, and then I had some gravel on my tires as well. So it was very hard to control the car on the throttle. So yeah, and I saw people spinning off. So you have just like that switch in you that's like you should be a little bit more careful going on throttle. And um, yeah, it was tricky out there, definitely because of the reversed grid. There's a bit of pace difference in the second race, but it was definitely very enjoyable out there, and just some great racing, to be honest.
Yeah, we certainly enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed commentating it as well. It gave my voice a very good workout. But of course, in an ideal situation, you won't be competing in race number four. But of course, if you had, then you're pretty comfortable in terms of points. So we can already kind of start looking forward to the final round of the season, can't we? We can look to that final finale at the Nordschleife. How confident are you at the Nürburgring?
I did some LAN events actually in race room there. I had the Avia finals there and the Endurance Team Challenge. So I really like the Nordschleife actually. I don't know if it will be in the top pace, but definitely I will be competing there if I qualify. But it would be possible. But I'm really looking out there for some fun and some very good racing and showing myself to the world and show how good sim racing can be.
Yeah, I'll be there as well. Well. I don't know if I'll be at the venue, but I'll definitely be in Munich in the Race Room Esports studio. So I'll be there. Come and say hi. But yeah, hopefully things go well for you. Not only in the next races in this season, but of course any other races that you're doing as well. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for the great commentating. Ciao.
All right, thank you. Well, that was Steph Kramer's there from the Dutch driver, hoping that he's finished inside the top four, and I can tell you now that he has. So here are your championship standings at the end of Imola. So Alex Mosen tied with Leonard Carton, in fact, for first place in the championship in terms of at the end of today. So those two drivers, they have qualified through. Pierre Daniel has also qualified for the final round of the season. And Steph Kramers, who you've just who've just seen me talk to, he's in P4. He will get himself a slot for the final round of the season, just ahead and tragically ahead of Michi Geisler. So Geisler has narrowly missed out of a qualification spot there, because I think that Steph Kramers, in terms of he has more higher placed finishes in the two races. So that's how the tiebreaker works here. So that is super, super unfortunate for Michi Geisler. He'll have to try and get it done on points or get it done on a top four next time out. Ben Farkas, of course, missing out as well. He was one of those drivers at the very top of the order at the end of race number 2. But unfortunately for him, he's not going to get himself an automatic slot for the final race of the season either. So that's the situation there. So, of course, we spoke to Daniel and Kramers as at the end of that event. And, well, with that, and with a couple of surprising names getting themselves through, and surprising names that actually don't get themselves through at this stage, we will have to bring things to a close there. But of course, you do not want to go away in terms of NGK esports competition, because we do have the leaderboard for the next round of the season up right now. So if you feel that you're fast enough to set yourself a fast enough time to be able to compete in this series, then go and do so. The leaderboard on Raceroom is open now, and then you might be able to join us for the broadcasted event for the race on the 31st of March. So that is going to be your final qualification event, qualification race, so to speak, into that final round of the season. We hope to see you there, but for now, my name's been Connery Maddock, and I'll have to say a very unfortunate goodbye.